Extremist movie debate. Extremist movie debate. Extremist movie debate.
It's the Extremist movie debate. And tonight we're talking 1976's All the President's Men.
I am Joe.
I'm Ethan, and one of us is going to love it, one of us is going to hate it.
Let the coin decide their fate.
I hate it.
I love it. Hey guys, don't mount a fake news cycle against us. There's spoilers ahead.
Starting early.
All right, and this movie has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Ethan, you hate this movie?
Yep.
All right, so this first question is for you. This comes from Chris Cabin of Collider. He says, Pacula was clearly talented from the moment he lensed his first feature, but like so many other new Hollywood icons, nationwide recognition didn't come until he took on a story of one of the great con jobs on the American people, the Watergate scandal. So my question for you is, do you feel it's important for filmmakers to make films about, you know, current political events like that, or should they just stick to making like Transformers and whatnot? You have 1 minute.
A big part of me wants to say no, don't preach, just, you know, shut up and sing is I think the go-to line for that. But yeah, I think it's important to talk about things that actually happen in real life. The issue here, I find, is that this movie largely glorifies these journalists who broke this big story, which, great, fine, they did it, it happened, wonderful, but this movie shows them doing it by consistently intruding in other people's homes and pressuring women to the extent that it is extremely uncomfortable. You know, they get the secretary or the other journalist at their work to be like, hey, you should just maybe lead on your ex-boyfriend so that we can get a list of names. Oh, hey, woman, thanks for opening the door. We're going to barge in here and ask you to make us coffee so that you can sit down for an hour and give us all the questions we want answered, or give us all the answers we have questions for. And it's unsettling to watch men assert dominance on all these women just to get fame themselves. And in that sense, yeah, that's also what the director is doing.
Thank you, Ethan. Joe, you have 30 seconds to respond.
So Ethan's just disregarding like the journalists doing their job, and he's just focusing on them doing their job with women opposed to the plethora of men that they talk to in this movie. And he's essentially just giving you a piece of the movie to try to make it look sexist. And these guys are journalists, they're doing their job. Secondly, they're never actually forcing themselves. They cannot do anything ethically until somebody says okay or yes. When they go to the door and the woman's kind of hesitant, she does invite them in, or somebody else invites them in and offers them coffee.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Ethan, you have 15 seconds to respond.
Yeah, that's the thing. Somebody else invites them in, not her. She asks them to leave, doesn't want to say anything, and then they just sit down and start sipping coffee and doesn't have like, this coffee's cold. Hint, hint, you should make me a warm pot so I can keep you talking. It's fucked up. He doesn't do any of it to any of the men. There's one guy in this that he barges in on, and you know what he actually does? Is he barges
I'm sorry, Ethan, I have to cut you off there. Joe, you have 15 seconds to respond.
No, because there's actually there's another male character that they continually go back to his house, and he's just like, this is the last time. They're like, okay, well, maybe, because we're doing our job. You can tell us nothing. You can just be silent, and you can just close your door, because we see that a lot. We see many people closing their doors on your face.
Joe, this next question is for you. This comes from Gary Arnold from the Washington Post. Gary says, political commentators seem to feel that this All the President's Men will have a far-reaching political impact this year. I'd be more inclined to believe it if the film affected a provocative, emotional tone. So how relevant do you think this film is to today's tense political atmosphere and everything going on with our president and, you know, the media and what he calls fake news? You have 1 minute.
Well, I think this movie is like very topical right now, because there are moments in this movie where they are calling, because the two men work for the Washington Post, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you see the Nixon administration actually calling them fake news and actually saying, like, where are you getting your information? Like, none of this happened, and they're just denying. We're seeing a lot of parallels with the Trump administration happening right now with similar things with just secrecy and the non-transparency. So I think this movie is very important, and it's just showing how important it is for journalists to continually do their job in the face of doors getting slammed in their faces. Like, they need to persevere and continue to do things, because they could be onto something huge that could be life-changing for many people in our country.
Okay, thank you. Ethan, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Look, I'm not one to question the president. I think that it's stupid to say that this movie that takes place just years after black people could even vote properly, you know, with national endorsements, I think that it's not safe to say that the integrity of the journalists portrayed in this movie, which I still think is super shoddy and shitty, is carrying on to a level of integrity today. You know, many decades later, I think it's safe to say that that organization has probably changed a great deal. Yeah, sometimes you hear Bob Woodward
Okay,
come out of the
thank you,
woodworks, but
Ethan.
That's about it.
Thank you, Ethan. Joe, you have 15 seconds.
organization?
Washington Post.
Okay.
Or journalists as a whole.
So journalists, when they're working on something of this magnitude, they're gonna feel some pushback. So that's essentially what they're doing. You have to find the right balance of being ethical, but also pushing enough to get the information you need. And if somebody says flat out no, it's not like they can torture them. to
Okay,
get
I'm
that
sorry,
information.
Joe. I have to cut you off there. Ethan, you have a final 15 to respond.
I'm not complaining about the pushback. I'm complaining about saying that this movie is important because it shows journalists doing hard work and showing that it's not fake news. And to say that this thing that happened many decades ago was not fake news is relevant to today still could very well be fake news. A lot changes over the course of several decades is all I'm saying.
All right, thank you. We're going to open up the floor for discussion. You guys have 4 minutes and go.
So essentially, you're saying that since back in the 70s, when Watergate broke, and the Nixon administration said that's fake news, and it turned out it wasn't because the journalists kept pushing and kept finding information.
Like, he doesn't say fake news. They question the sources. They're upset that they have many anonymous sources. Nobody's willing to go on the record. Nobody's willing to confirm it. They got mostly upset about when they named that one guy as the grand jury, and the other guy said, "No, I never said that." Because he couldn't say it, because he can't, give out details of what he said under a grand jury investigation. However, it came out that, I totally would have said that if they had fucking asked me about it.
So
nobody says fake news.
So to paraphrase you,
Please.
they're saying that this is made up news, which also could be fake news based on their unfounded news.
Okay.
And that's essentially what the Trump administration is saying now. But you're saying, just because it was unfounded then and it turned out to be true, you can't take that and then look at the administration today that looks very similar and say that this is also going to be true because it's a different time. So you're saying that we can't look at it now just because of then?
No,
You're saying there's no parallels?
It's one circumstance.
Are there parallels?
Well, sure. There's a president, yes, and there are journalists, yes, but you can't just take one circumstances and apply that as a foil to everything else that happens in the future.
See,
it's not fair. You can't.
I think this movie is. I think this movie is so important right now because it's a call to arms to journalists. Because right now, the administration in power is vilifying journalists and making the journalists look like the bad guy. And we've heard people say, this is the opposition party. This is the enemy of the American people. The media is the enemy of the American people. We are hearing people in the cabinet saying these things. And this movie, All the President's Men, is a call to arms saying sometimes you're going to get a lot of pushback, but you need to follow your heart and be ethical and actually break the story because it's important. This is important to the American people. And just because somebody says that you're unpatriotic or you're the enemy does not actually make it so.
Yeah, but they barge in a lot of women's houses.
Okay, I'm just going to stop you guys there. How do you really feel about the movie?
Start your newspaper subscriptions, everybody. It's important.
No, it's good. And I think that's the thing. It's you're watching this movie. This movie's dry. This movie's long. This movie's slow. But it does not make it bad. This movie's a really well-made, well-paced movie.
At no point was I unengaged.
That's the thing. Yeah. So you're constant but I could see a lot of people just being boring and turning it off halfway through because not a lot happens. There's not a lot of action in this movie. It's essentially watching the story unfold, and that's what's so engaging and interesting about it.
It's a lot of people on a telephone and drinking cups of coffee, which, goddamn, this movie does so well. This movie does so well with little framing tricks of putting two different perspectives in focus. It's so great, there's the long push-in of Robert Redford on the phone, and then all the other phones in the background are all in focus too, just being unused. It's it uses... For somebody who is not a well-known director at the time, the movie utilizes such wonderful uses of a frame, a perspective, of cinematography, even the opening shot where it just starts on a blurred piece of paper, you don't know what it is, and then all of a sudden, boom, focus, slamming down the keys, and using those keys in the end accompanied by the sounds of cannon fire from the inauguration, just using words as a weapon, making everything come into focus. This movie uses symbolism in a way that we don't get often anymore, and especially for such a movie that's so bland, that's just about journalists looking through phone books and sitting down on people's couches. Yeah, it kills.
I think it's kind of what you were talking about with Manchester by the Sea is it's an exercise in simplicity again, and it's the story itself that's so complex that will keep you engaged. So if they tried to make a really flashy like technically difficult movie, like it would have just, I think, toppled in on itself. So like just the simplicity of how they made this movie with like the symbolism that you're talking about, like really pushes this movie forward.
Yeah, spotlight about government corruption.
Okay, well, what would you guys rate the movie?
I'd give it a 9 out of 10 and a bit of thunder.
I'll give it 10 and a lot of thunder.
All right, perfect.
And you can go ahead and comment below if you like the episode, hit like, subscribe, whatnot. If you want us to do a movie in the future, comment below and we can take that request. You can also write down a question you'd like us to say, or debate about said movie, and Unpaid Intern Jeff will go ahead and read that and we'll debate it on that episode.
Thank you, and good night.
Thanks.